And good morning and good day to everyone around the world and around the country. Welcome to Navigate B2B on FreightWaves TV. I'm Steve Ferreira, your host for today's show. And I'm CEO of Ocean Audit, a global ocean freight overspend recovery consultancy company based here in beautiful Hartford, Connecticut. So it is a pleasure to have episode 1, 2021, coming right into your living rooms, offices, well, probably not offices, but living rooms and TVs and Apples and iPods and everywhere that FreightWaves is broadcast live. We're thrilled to have you today. And we have a very special show today that I title Containergeddon 2, Opportunity Knocks. By the way, it shows you a little bit about me being a boomer. A great movie called Opportunity Knocks with Dana Carvey, one of my favorite comedians of all time. So if you have a chance on a Friday night, go to Amazon or any of your favorite Hulus and look at Opportunity Knocks with Dana Carvey. Great movie. You'll have a laugh a minute. So it's a really great day, and one of the things that we like to do here at Navigate B2B is, besides having great guests, which we'll have on in the next 10 minutes, we like to break news and share news with you in the area of container shipping, the navigation of building your own B2B persona, the impacts of the economy on container shipping, and some predictions in terms of how the year will look. And I bring you today some interesting breaking news. I noticed on CNBC this morning that the economy had a job loss of 140,000 in December, as opposed to an expected gain of 50,000. So that's really interesting news that we're going to kind of consolidate in a second. Now, the unemployment rate did not actually dipped 6.7 to 6.8, right? So these were non-farm jobs that the economy was hoping to add in, but the economy actually retracted those jobs. And I think as we start to talk about Containergeddon, the sequel, we've all known what's happened with containers and ocean rates and the flight of goods from factory to consumer has just been a pitfall of perils for logistics managers and my core audience watching. And I think that one of the things we're seeing now, when you take the news of the economy, the fact that this all but probably guarantees or reassures the American people that a stimulus will be forthcoming with the new Democratic administration and the control of Congress, it's really interesting that the stimulus will, to what economists say, for example, or even investment banking giants like Evercore, they're predicting that the additional checks that will reach the consumers are going to be help release that pent-up demand. Because at a time when unemployment is lower, the mobility has improved around the country a little bit better, even though vaccine rollout is a little bit truncated. This really means that the fact that we've saved so much money because we've been afraid of the pandemic, we start to have a little bit better earnings as we kind of come out of the curve a little bit. And then, so this pent-up demand that everyone was talking about being released in March, April, is delayed a tad, right? Because we're a little slow on the rollout of the vaccine. We've got the changeover of the administration. We've got probably bigger and fatter checks on the way. Consumers are going to be thrilled and delighted to do that. And, I was talking to a friend the other day that, I'm a big fan of cruising. My family and I love to cruise. We like Royal Caribbean, this Carnival. I mean, there's great cruise lines. But will we be doing services like that? Probably not, right? So what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is product, right? Consumption. You look at things that are happening now in Europe, as an example. I mean, here we sit in New York City area, the global Manhattan area where I live, and we talk about the fact that people want things. It makes them feel comfortable. Peloton's a great example. The health and fitness craze, right? Peloton is just through the roof. And you look at the growth of those consumer type items, especially even in places like Europe, the Europeans now are just craving, right, for product. And so one of the things that's silently happening really is driving the prices, say, from Asia to Europe to incredible record-setting, mind-blowing rates. I have a client that's a Fortune 500, and they called me, and they were trying to get containers from Shanghai to the EU main ports like Hamburg or Rotterdam, and getting turned down by their incumbent ocean vendors, that they've been working with for years. Even when the importer was willing to pay $8,000, $8,500 a container. I mean, these rates coming out of Asia to Europe are mind-blowing, right? Considering that just a few years ago, I was sitting in one of my clients' offices in Amsterdam, auditing invoices for $1,200 from Shanghai to Amsterdam, and to go from not all that long ago, $1,200 to $8,000. I think that the one thing that we could maybe talk about a little bit to show that, because we're so focused on what's happening in the U.S., but the container index rate that is out there in the marketplace that's put out on a regular basis by Drewry. I love this because it really shows the fact that of the rapid explosive growth around the world. You can see here that the overall world container index is just approaching and actually surpassing 5,000. Now it takes in consideration every trade lane, and Drewry is one of the many gold standards out there. Of course, we've got great data from FreightWaves, American Shipper. There's great data out there available to us as analysts to really look at. But I think this, I love this chart because it just shows the dramatic extremes that we're going through. And I think that when we take a look at a map that accompanies this, and we look at HARPEX, right? HARPEX is the Harper Peterson, excuse me. I've got too much C.H. Robinson and freight on my mind today. But the Harper Peterson index is really a obscure index that takes in consideration the leasing rates, so the charter rates, excuse me, that the ship owners provide out to the ship lines like CMA or MSC or OCL or Hapag-Lloyd. And you can see there almost a V-shaped recovery, between the time frame of the pandemic, where the chart is at the bottom, and where the leasing rates are now, or the charter rates are now. So I think in overall, just a quick summary of the process is that as we just go back to the dialogue, I think that we really have to look at a client of mine just the other day said, "Hey, Steve, I got quoted $11,000 from Shanghai to LA." And I said, "Is that for real?" And they said, "Yes. I mean, it includes all these guaranteed and premium services." So it's a real big problem. And I think that when you look at the overall scope of the Trans-Pacific, and we look at the marine traffic diagrams right now taking place, one of the carryovers of Containergeddon, the sequel, so to speak, is if you look at all those green dots, there's about 30, 35 container ships just waiting to get into the port, right? So basically, you've gone from a turn time last year of about 4 weeks from booking to getting your cargo. Now you're about 9 weeks from the booking process to getting your cargo. So Containergeddon Part 2, Opportunity Knocks, is really, you're hearing it live from this analyst today, who I like to consider myself one of the top analysts in the world on this topic. I think we're going to see this trend continue well through the fall of 2021. And I think we all need to brace ourselves that these movement of goods will eventually increase the economy, because we will see that pent-up demand. But we can continue to see these very prolific rates take place. And it's just amazing as we start to go into 2021 contracting. I even hear some rumblings that even the highest TEU, FEU importers will be paying well over $3,000 in their initial contracting rates. So it's a real slippery slope out there. Stay tuned to Navigate B2B for more news on that. And as we move forward, we'll keep everyone informed. But I think that when we talk about the opportunity, we talk about opportunistic ideas to improve your B2B standing and improve the B2B persona, because right now it's a very flat environment. Carriers and freight forwarders are doing great. They're making big bonuses. Customers are out there kind of wondering what the heck is going on. And when we tie it all together, we talk about opportunities for getting our message out in a social media environment. And to that end, I'd like to introduce my special guest and friend, Beth Granger. Beth is the CEO of Beth Granger Consulting. Beth is a top trainer, teacher, coach, entrepreneur on LinkedIn. And she's going to talk to us today about a lot of the things that we can do as professionals to enhance that B2B genre within us all. Beth, welcome to Navigate B2B.
Thank you. So great to be here with you this morning.
It's terrific to have you here. You heard me explaining some of the issues that the industry has right now. And I think that right now in global logistics, the participants on the vendor side, meaning the logistics providers, they're in a state of euphoria because they're banking great money. They're making the big bonuses. They're really cashing in because freight rates and ocean rates have never been higher. I mean, in my 30 years, I've never seen anything like this. Now, importers and exporters, on the other hand, are over budget. They're working from home. They're stressed. They're in a recovery stage, and the message is pretty flat, right, between the vendor and the customer. And the vendors, we're talking about the freight forwarders and the providers of logistics, in my humble opinion, should up their game in terms of how to cross communicate, because at some point, right, you heard my monologue, we're going to go from a state of euphoria to a state where hey, now you're really back into the social selling skills, right? So I think one of the things on LinkedIn is how best to use LinkedIn as a social media channel during a pandemic, if you're a vendor and if you're on the customer side and wanting to be looked at as a thought leader. I'd like to get your comments on both.
Sure. Well, the thing about LinkedIn, whether during a pandemic or not, it's one of the few places you control the message about you. So you want to own that real estate. And during the pandemic, what it's allowed people to do, they used to be able to meet with people in person or do other things that they can't do. LinkedIn allows them to both meet new people, stay in touch with people, support their network. And it's just a great place to be able to do that. And I've seen more and more people getting active there that weren't always active before. And I think some people are apprehensive because they don't know how to behave, what to do. Some people wonder, if I comment on a post, who is going to see it? Is my boss going to see it? Are my colleagues going to see it? So I think that's why sometimes people don't get as active as they could.
Well, I think it's really interesting, Beth. I look at it a lot, and I mean, I think LinkedIn. And by the way, I should point out that Beth has her own company. She doesn't work directly for LinkedIn, but she is noted as one of the top LinkedIn trainers. I just want to clarify that. Beth, when I look at it, I think LinkedIn puts out stats that the average person's on, for, I don't know, 12 minutes a day. I forget what the stat is. It's something. I mean, I'm on it constantly because I don't like Facebook. I don't like Instagram. And for me, as a visionary, a thought leader, I really feel it's important to keep on top of everything. Now, I know people can't do it maybe as much as I do, because I'm addicted to it and it's my lifeblood. But what are some tips that you would have to, let's say that somebody is mid-level, import manager or, senior sales rep, and they've got 500, 600, 1,000 followers. What are 2 or 3 tips that they could do, right now to maybe up their game?
Sure. Well, the first thing, your foundation is your profile. Your profile has to present you the way you want to be seen, because when you begin to engage, share content, comment on other people's content, whatever you might do, they're going to come back and check you out. So you definitely want to make sure that you represent yourself and potentially the organization that you work for in the best way possible. But then the simplest thing, this is something I don't think people think about. You can comment on other people's posts. It's like joining a conversation in progress. So if you find people who are talking about the topics that are important to you, you can be part of that by commenting, asking questions, and that's also how you can meet those people if you don't already know them.
And it's interesting you say that, because that may be one of the lower effort level things that somebody can do to kind of join in right away and start to get into the flow. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If you're not ready, some people are uncomfortable sharing content. Maybe they don't feel like they're a good writer, or they don't want to be on video, or
Right.
so joining conversations in progress, great first step. Of course, sharing your own thoughts, this is the perfect place to do it in many formats: text, PDF, video. So yeah.
It's interesting. I have a good friend that has become a friend on LinkedIn, and I just turned 60, and my friend is maybe 32, 33. We're a little bit different generations, but the one thing we have in common is that we're really besties, and he uses video real well, and he has used video, right, to go from one of 10,000 to one of 100. And you and I are LinkedIn live broadcasters. I have my show, and so we know the power of video. But I want to broach on video because my friend, I'll give him a shout out, Michael Neme. He's done such a good job in communicating as to CEOs and to thought leaders, even though in Mike's position, in the old traditional employee client relationship, right? The client might have looked at Mike and said, oh, he's just another salesperson. But Mike's elevated his game now to be able to educate CEOs. And it's brilliant, right? And so we share this in common. I guess I want to reach out to you, is that how can somebody go from, a normal participation level to starting to create video? And how would they do that?
Well, I think they can feel overwhelmed because they think, okay, I don't want to talk, I don't like how I look on video. I don't like how I sound on video, or do I have to
Right.
caption it? I think there's a saying, and I'm not going to get it right, that perfect is the enemy of good, or whatever, something like that. So the idea is just do it. You can start really simply. And if you're uncomfortable being on camera, it doesn't have to be that. It can be you speaking. So earlier you had on that chart showing where the ships were. So it could be an image with you speaking over it as your first type of video. So I know somebody who's in the mortgage space, where he'll show the chart of the mortgage rates, and talk about it. So it's not him on camera, but it is
Love
still
that.
video.
No, it's interesting, right? That actually might work in a double way, in a positive, because, I think sometimes maybe could we be over videoed, or you think on LinkedIn we haven't really reached that? In other words, do you think that average user is like, oh geez, another video? But if I see a static image and, audio commentary, how do you feel either way? Or do you use both in conjunction?
I like to use all the different formats, because what people will find is they can experiment. They can see what their network likes. So you'll have a portion of your network that likes to read, so do text posts. You'll have a portion of your network that really likes to consume video. You'll have people who like a PDF, or will notice a PDF because it takes up a lot of space on the screen and gets people's attention. So I think it's just part of the mix.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think it's so true. And it goes, in symmetry with my own business, right? Like, for example, what somebody likes at one of my retail clients, they don't like at one of my fast moving consumer goods client. They have a different pain point. They have a different element of where they want to come across. And I think it's so extraordinary that we're talking about this. And by the way, I just want to remind my audience that you're watching Steve Ferreira, host of Navigate B2B, and I've got my special guest, Beth Granger of Beth Granger Consulting, LinkedIn. Beth has her own company, but she is one of the LinkedIn leading trainers in the planet. Beth, so I wanted to ask you too. We talked the other day about one of my favorite. I hate the word hacks, right? To me, a hack is like something that the 20 somethings and the 30 somethings like to talk about. But one of my favorite tools is the LinkedIn mobile device, where I can leave a voice message. Talk a little bit about what you see. Is it underused? Is it overused? Is it okay to use it for building your sales funnel? Let's talk about that tool and describe to the audience what exactly we're talking about.
Sure. So on your mobile version of LinkedIn, you can send your connections either an audio message or a video message. And I think it is incredibly underused because hearing somebody's voice automatically brings you closer to them, right? You feel like you know them. Maybe they're from England and you didn't realize when you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, they're from England, right? So it definitely is a wonderful tool as a way to, maybe after you first connect with somebody, send them an audio message saying great to connect and whatever you might want to say. Same for a video message. And both of those you can do on your mobile phone. So
do you think, Beth, that is really a great tip, and that's I'm going to mark that as one of my top takeaways of talking with you today. But getting started to do that, I mean, I joked with you pre-show how when I hear this music for my show, da, 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 and it's like, oh my God, I'm on in 3, 2, 1. It's like, the lights go on and it's like, okay, something's got to come out of my mouth, right? And I guess my question is, it's a natural thing, right? So we're leaving something. We're getting out of our comfort zone. So maybe give a tip on how to, take a deep breath, or what do you do to get out of a comfort zone, even to participate on LinkedIn?
Well, first of all, when it comes to the audio messages, we're so used to leaving voicemails. So it's a very similar thing. Some people even call it that. They'll call it a voicemail. And you don't have to send it. You can do it and then decide. But we're all human. It's just a conversation. So don't be frightened of it. It's like if you meet somebody in person, you're not going to worry about. You're just part of that conversation. You're not going to overthink it. I think with both video and audio, sometimes we do overthink it. Right? It's like, what does my voice sound like, or whatever. Just do it.
Right. Yeah, you make some great points on that. I reached out to a senior SVP at a Fortune 10 and sent him a video, just like you suggested, right? And I sent it before Christmas, and he just responded yesterday. Said, hey, I'd love to connect with you. It was my first video, and it's like, I think when you get into cutting edge stuff, right, and then you see the reaction of people, it's like, hey, that was cool, right? I'm sure you've done it all the time. And I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like, to me, it's like, wow, it's so super motivating that somebody liked my video, or that they like the fact that I was not afraid to be authentic. I think that's the key, right? Being authentic.
100%. And I think that's one of the good things that has happened because of the pandemic. People are more comfortable with that authenticity, right? People know people are at home, and it's okay. And it's okay when the cat goes by the screen. And I hope that understanding and that sensibility stays after the fact.
I think it's really interesting because, as I said, I think that where this kind of crossover effect comes into play is, I really do believe that with the pandemic, right, we're going to have this continuation of pent-up demand. I don't see us all getting out. I see mobility improving, but I still think that in order to prepare ourselves for higher wages, and if we're an entrepreneur, like many people on LinkedIn are, and it's funny, right? Because we talked the other day about your knowledge of logistics, or it's a new industry for you, which is great. And I'm so glad that my logistics followers are seeing exposure to someone like yourself that's a pro on this topic. But I think that when you look at like logistics, it's like it's one of the most untapped areas for LinkedIn. It's like the tech guys, are out there dominating a lot of the space, which actually is a really good question for you. Is there one industry that tends to do better on LinkedIn than others?
So
in your opinion?
initially, I would say B2B and professional services, but now you can find your people anywhere there. So really, I've even seen people in the more retail space using
Right.
it effectively, which is interesting. And at first, you wouldn't think it would make sense, but they use it to engage with their referral partners. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And which is that's such a great topic because when you can maybe start making videos for someone you're close to, right, or a referral partner or somebody that you have a good relationship with, that's an excellent strategy. And you can get practice by saying, hey, I made you this video. Any critique on it, or how can I improve, or just what I like to do is just turn on my Microsoft camera, do my video, and see how my voice sounds and my messaging. So I think we all have to get comfortable, because I think we know that virtual stuff and LinkedIn stuff is the wave of the future. It's here now, right?
Yep.
But I think we're still in the infancy. So I know we only have about 4 minutes left in our segment. What would you say would be one of your best 2 or 3 top secret hacks that you'd be willing to share with our audience? What are a couple things that you could do like right today when they get off to say, let's do this?
My sneaky strategies. So LinkedIn provides a lot of information and features, but doesn't necessarily tell you how to use it. In fact, I don't even think they may have thought about how people use it. So one of my favorite things is we all like to look at who viewed our profile, right? We're very curious, just in a natural way. Excuse me. And but what do you do with that information? So I'm going to tell you what you do with that information. If a first connection looks at your profile and you haven't spoken with them in a while, there's probably a reason. Could be just they happen to click on something, whatever. But this can shorten an interaction or an engagement or work. So for instance, example, someone looked at my profile, hadn't spoken to him in a while. So I reached out and I just simply said, hey, notice you stopped by my profile. How are you? And that didn't feel stalkery or weird. I mean, people know you can see that they've been there. And he said, oh, I meant to call you. Susan said you're the person to talk to, a common friend of ours. You're the person to talk to about LinkedIn training. That led to a client for me. If I hadn't noticed that and done that, what if Susan gave him 3 names and he called someone else first? What if he got too busy? So it can shorten an interaction just by noticing that.
I love that so much, because that's something I think a lot of us do intuitively. Is we do use that feature. A lot of us do use that feature who looked, because we like to know, but we don't do anything with it. And I love the way how you proactively either picked up the phone or even sent an email or even sent a message just to kind of follow up on it. And 50% odds that they're going to give you back a reply, unless they just stumbled on it accidentally. But like you said, if it's a first degree, they might have been looking at something else, something special. So I wanted to actually ask you, because you've become a leader also in using not only LinkedIn, but can you give us maybe, I'd like this new idea of Clubhouse, this new application. Could you maybe give the audience a 30-second overview on what Clubhouse is and why we should know about Clubhouse?
I love it. I love it. I know it's still new. It's sort of the wild, wild west there, but it's an audio-only app right now, only for the iPhone. It's technically in beta, and you apply to get in, but invitations are just going around like crazy. And to me, it's like being at a conference where you can join sessions, meet people because of those sessions, be part of them, and you can host rooms where you can host conversations about topics that interest you.
Wow, I've started to get into it a little bit. It seems like it would be a great complement to, having your own room, and you could kind of cascade over from being, one person on LinkedIn to another thought leader on Clubhouse, or vice versa, once you develop the Clubhouse listening. Beth, it's just been amazing to have you on as a guest. I feel we could have another show, and I'd like to have you back another time. How could my audience reach out to you?
Well, obviously, I'm on LinkedIn, Beth Granger. The easiest way. If you do want to connect with me, please send a custom message saying this is how you came across me.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. It's just awesome to have you on, Beth, and I want to thank my whole entire audience. Welcome again to the show, and have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon on Navigate B2B. Have a good one. Bye, Beth.
Thank you.